after you have a meeting, ask someone to recap the meeting and email to you, or just the bullet points, like what was really important. And that way you can see if you've missed, you haven't communicated well, or somebody, there's been like a misfire on communication. Because you don't want somebody to think that something's coming that isn't, or that you've broken your word. This is like an old saying, right? More important to be respected than be liked. It is, it's really good not to be hated. It's really hard if you're hated, right? But you don't really have to go on vacation. Like, I have had the privilege of working here and are really good friends with a lot of our senior managers, but you don't have to go on vacation with everybody. You don't have to be loved and hang out in your personal time, but it does help not to be hated. And what you do need is people to respect you, and why, and we'll talk about why that's so important in a minute.
Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Okay, so when you're a manager, you need to be a great manager. You need to push, you need to help someone achieve more than they would on their own, right? That to me is a definition of what management really is I'm going to help somebody achieve, a team, a person achieve more than they're going to achieve on their own. And in order to do that, you're going to have to push for performance. You're going to have to push for high performance to help them achieve. And then at some point, someone is going to make a decision that they're going to listen to you and buy into your program, or they are going to check out and be like, the old man doesn't know what he's talking about. Phil doesn't know what he's talking about. And if you've given somebody one reason to disrespect you, if you've been an asshole at a party, if you've done whatever millions of things you can do to get people to not respect you, if you've done one of those things, your job as a manager is much, much harder, because people will check out. Rather, when you push them hard for performance, they will make that decision whether to buy in or check out, and they will check out. If you've given them one reason to disrespect you, you've made your job monumentally harder as a manager. This is really, really important. It seems simple, right? Integrity above all else. Like, you simply, if you don't have integrity, people will not follow you. It just will not scale. Like, if we meet this goal, we're going to have a Friday pizza party or whatever, right? You're making a contract, and you have to be true to your word and really understand what you've said, right? And because this is it's just a huge point. So like, integrity is not only the right thing to do, nothing else really scales. You can't be a leader and lead a bunch of people if you don't have integrity and approach everything you're doing with integrity. And if you break your word to somebody, that's breaking of a contract. So be very careful as a manager what you promise. A good trick might be when you have a meeting with somebody, because people don't always hear what you say, they hear what they want to hear. A good trick that some of our managers have used has been, after you have a meeting, ask someone to recap the meeting and email to you, or just the bullet points, like what was really important. And that way you can see if you've missed, you haven't communicated well, or there's been like a misfire on communication. Because you don't want somebody to think that something's coming that isn't, or that you've broken your word. Let me give you a scenario. Is Alex Farrell in the room? Okay, so Alex Farrell sells a job. She sells a job, and she puts the job sheet incorrectly, and the job is going into French. All right? But her project manager is Jin Lee. And Jin Lee puts the job into Spanish by accident. Puts the PO out, puts the job into Spanish. And then the job comes back, and Alex Farrell's like, Jin, this is supposed to go into French. And so now Jin has to scramble, and he has to pay a translator twice. Right? Alex cannot double the price to the client for this. So the markup on the job is 1, and there's 0 profit in the job. Alex, how much do you make on that? You make 0.
Because it's nothing.
9%
to zero.
You make 0, right? So Alex makes 0, even though she filled out the job sheet correctly, she did everything correctly, and Jin Lee messed up the project. Okay, who thinks that's fair? Who doesn't care? No. Who thinks it's unfair?
I do.
Okay, so we think that, so we have a policy at the company, and we think this is unfair. So what this story is about is a lesson about getting the why. Because if I've done a good job in my hiring of Alex Farrell, I've said this, Alex, sales is a high risk, high reward position. You are the closest to the client. You are the closest to the production team. If anything goes wrong, it is your fault. It doesn't matter. It's a strict liability concept. It is on you. High risk, high reward. You share in the company's pain and you share in the company's success in sales, and that is your job. So, and as a matter of fact, the system is built that way because I cannot have Jin Lee putting things in the wrong language all the time. I have got to distribute that pain. If we just gave if Alex just, we said, oh, well, Alex didn't make a mistake, let's just pay her commission, right? If we just did that, then nothing changes. Nothing stops. Jin might put it into 3 languages next week, who cares, right? I got to have Alex call me up and be like, Phil, get Jin Lee off my projects. He keeps putting them in the wrong language, all right? That is actually part of our system is in the design. So there's a couple of lessons there, but the main one is if you think something is unfair, you don't always have the answer that people want, but you have to give them the why. Why is Alex getting docked? Right? Alex getting docked because she has big upside on the other side, and it's not really her fault, but that's the way life is. She shares in the pain just with the company, just like she shares in the success. And so now if I've said that correctly in the hiring on the way in, Alex, did somebody say that to you or no?
Yes. They did.
That's good.
Maybe not exactly in those words. but-
Okay, well then you would think it was fair, or maybe you don't think it's fair, but at least you understand the why. At least I've at least given you a plausible, reasonable, or hopefully it sounds reasonable, some explanation as to why the company's policy exists. So I say it all the time. You don't owe someone the answer that they want, but you owe them the why as a manager. And if you don't have the why, go up the chain and get the why. Okay, we talked about this before, about importance of being respected. Management is a 24/7 job, right? It doesn't really clock in and clock out. When you're at a party, when you're out later this evening, whatever you do as a manager, your behavior is always sort of, someone is looking at it and someone is making that determination. Am I buying in or am I checking out? How is this person conducting themselves? So just don't think that it's somehow at the end of the business day that shuts off for you. It is a 24/7 job.